Aloha. Aloha, friends and neighbors, and welcome to show 886 of Astrology, Ancient Science in the Modern World. I'm your host, Kona astrologer, Rollin Frost, trying to scrape up a living, doing charts for you and other odd jobs. I want to talk about the USA chart. This is not the chart of you, the country, and the people. This is a chart of the government. Yes. And it's a big thing that we kind of mistake the chart of the government for the chart of the people, because it seems like the people all kind of behave according to the chart of the government. Anyway, this is a philosophical problem that I'm looking at kind of strong. Upshot is you're in the last, we're going to talk about the last week in November, and on December 2nd there's a new moon at 10 Sag. Now I used the 9/11 incident to make up my mind about the USA chart, and from what I've read in all the books and magazines and things, astrologers have not settled on the USA chart. They got bad information from several different places, and guys put it in books, and so everybody believed it. And I can't believe but what I'm the only astrologer that knows how to use progressions. Anyway, I'm going to show you how I rectified the chart. I'm going to show you the proof of the chart, which I believe to be the location of various special places in the USA country, like Venus going through Las Vegas. But moreover, the proof is in the pudding, as they say, and that is when you, like, when I'm looking for the chart of a person, I have clients that don't know their birth times, and we have to rectify their chart. And so what I do is I go back and I make a list of about 20 different things that happen at certain ages. And we start with this chart here, this X chart, let's call it, and you know, I make a list. At age 5, broke your toe. At age 8, bicycle stolen. Age 12, moved. Age 14, got drunk the first time. Age 21. Anyway, there could be a list of about 20 things. And what will happen is, if the birth time is off by 4 minutes, that puts that off by 1 degree is 1 year. So if I make the list and the person comes back and says, oh my goodness, all those things did happen, but you were 2 years off, and most of them were 2 years in this direction. Okay, that's 8 minutes I would add to the birth time. So kind of that's the way you do it. Now you're sort of lost if you don't know if it's AM or PM. Much more difficult thing. You got to look at the past life though. So I've done some of that with the USA chart, and it looks good. Moreover, predicting behavior is a big thing. If you've got a good chart, and most of my regular clients know that I won't work on a sloppy time. I will do something about it until I get an accurate time. That way I can do accurate predictions, and they're not off by a year or two. Okay, so talking about the USA chart, the government's chart, which comes in at 5.5 Gemini rising, and the ruler of the 10th house, Uranus, comes in at 9 degrees of Gemini. And the ruler of your 10th house is as important as the ruler of your first. Your rising sign for you, the body, that's the rising sign. What you're seeing now of Rollin Frost is my 10th house ruler, Uranus. I have Uranus ruling the 10th house too. So your public self, what the public sees, is the midheaven, okay? Now Uranus in the USA chart at 9 degrees of Gemini is about to take the new moon, December 2nd. That's the reason I'm bringing it up to you, is so that you can watch what happens. The proof is in the pudding. Now, if you have a new moon, it's kind of like every new moon is like mom and dad, the moon and the sun get together and they have a big meeting, and they may change some policies and they may change directions. In fact they do. They change a lot of stuff. Full moons are kind of similar, only the mother and father, the male female moon sun people, fight a little more. Anyway, this is a new moon at 10 degrees of Sagittarius. Now, that means it opposes the USA 10th house ruler and the rising sign. So we're going to have a month starting around December 2nd on that new moon. Not we, but the government, when everybody's kind of against it. We could have friendly people come out and say, hey, like recently a lot of our friendly countries have really gotten ticked off about the NSA spying on their people. So this crescendo of not liking the USA government is building now even. But once you hit that December 2nd new moon, it's going to kind of explode for a month. And you're going to see 1 month almost like if there was a serious planet going by there, we'd go, eek, another attack like 9/11. But no, it's just a new moon. So what it does is it emphasizes. And everybody who wants to take a shot at the USA government, I don't mean literally, but figuratively, is going to do so. So you're going to see this great outcry in the whole world against the USA government. You'll feel the same way, I think. This Uranus, the ruler of the 10th house, is one of the reasons certain people say we're exceptional. Exceptionalism, we can do what we want. We don't have to listen to anybody else. Right-wing propaganda. But Uranus does mark our public reputation, and it's about to get smeared. So you're still, 10, 12 days off that new moon. Skateboard right down the street. So now you got a heads up. I'm going to show you about the USA chart, because now I realize a lot of astrologers may be watching this. It's on YouTube, and I want them to know how to rectify and what the proofs were. And let's get the USA government chart straight for once. In 200 years, and nobody knew because of some silly guys in, I won't get into. And nobody really wanted to say that we're a Gemini rising country, because Gemini rising doesn't always have the best reputation. They're a little bit sticky-fingered and a little bit two-tongued and kind of tricky, huh? So everybody wanted us to be Sagittarius rising. They had it just the opposite. Anyway, that's what we're going to work on during this show, and I guess I'll go do the sky mirror first, so I don't shortchange you on what's coming up next week. But the message today is the chart I have on the USA government works. It's true. Everybody got to listen up and start working on that chart, and let's start some descriptions of what this government is really about. It's not set in cement, No, lots of countries changed governments, and their national chart changed. Pakistan and India got bad charts from the British, and the British said, okay, you're free, lousy chart. So they knew that, and they went back and they made new charts, and they rebirthed their country with a constitution and a government on a really good chart that their Hindu astrologers fixed up for them. So maybe astrologers in this country are too much afraid to step up and say, hey, look at this chart. It's always difficult to face your problems and your neurosis and your bad karma, so to speak, in your chart. And the U.S. certainly has some. The USA government has some. I mean, look at the way it was born in war. Look at the Civil War. And I mean, we're a warlike, aggressive country. And, government. Not the peoples, not the country, it's the government. Seems to flavor the whole thing. Okay, Sky Mirror next, and then we'll go back and do some work on this Gemini rising chart. So other astrologers in the world and in the U.S. know what's going on. All right, what's going on in the Sky Mirror? Always reminds me, there's an app for your iPhone called Sky Mirror Astrology. Gives you the chart of right now, no matter where your location or elevation is. Touch of a button. Well, we're going to touch on the next 10 days for you. Starting out on the 22nd of November. The new moon's coming up on December 2nd, trines Uranus. But this one is the one that opposes the USA 10th house ruler, its identity. It's Uranus on the rising sign, so this is going to be a fun thing to watch just up ahead. I want to show you a little bit more about the USA chart and how it works out on the Earth. Maybe I'll do that on next week's show. Okay, what do we got here? We've got a chart of the sky, and I'm going to run the moon around the edge, and as it makes angles to the various bodies, it kind of generates the mood of the time. We still have Uranus square Pluto at 9-10 degrees of cardinal. Eek! The sun has gone into Sagittarius for you tomorrow, and we'll square Neptune a couple days from now, and we'll all feel kind of fuzzy. Yes, fuzzy. There is, however, a nice trine coming up between Mars and Venus. Mars in Virgo, Venus in Capricorn. They're in harmony here a bit. Let's check it out day by day and see what happens. I make these little notes here so you can see. Here's one day's moon travel, and it's in Cancer. If you're on the Thursday show on Thursday night, moon's going by Jupiter. Truth and wisdom is coming out here. Wow. Yeah, a lot of neat stuff. Of course, you're not getting any rest because there's a square or an opposition to Venus. The girls aren't too happy, but there's a lot of nice wisdom. It's kind of the middle of the day Thursday, huh? Friday about noontime, the moon moves into Leo, and it makes a nice trine to the sun in Sagittarius, and you'll feel ambitious and feel like getting stuff done. Different vibes, huh? Saturday morning on the 23rd, there's a trine to Uranus. This whole period is inventive and independent and Aquarian age. So things will come up in the news, new wondrous things for your mind to chew on Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon and evening, though, there's a square to Mercury. It's hard to communicate. And a square to Saturn late Saturday night. Everybody's stuck and we're worried about it's getting cold and we're feeling poor. And moon in Leo, we tend to get stuck in these things too. Continues kind of through Sunday, the 24th, this feeling of difficulty communicating and getting around and not expecting the slowdown. On Monday, the 25th of November, the moon goes into Virgo here. There's an opposition to Neptune. And here is where you're going to feel really, whoa, the water is too much, the flooding, the fog, the confusion, the lying, the priest, artist, doctor, musician, Neptune here. These Pisces characters are in for trouble. Everybody's kind of seeing through all of this. Who are these guys, these privileged people? You won't like it too much. There's a square to the sun, and it happens on Monday, the middle of the day, so expect confusion in the morning, and can't get much done through the middle of the day and the afternoon. But, you find some decisive new information late Monday night about midnight here with a trine to Pluto. And the decisive new information kind of relaxes you a little bit all the way through Tuesday. And here on Tuesday night, we have the trine to Venus. And here is some sweets, some sugar. Here's some relaxation, some beauty, Tuesday night, November 26th. Now, you stay up too late, and you get going on towards midnight here, the moon's going to hit Mars. It's going to get very lusty, and could get a little angry and impatient. Ask yourself what you're protecting. Tone it down, young men. The girls asked you out Tuesday night, and you're machoing out here later on. That's not good. Just tone it down. Wednesday, the moon's still in Virgo on the 27th, and you still got a lot of energy in the morning. In the middle of the day, it shifts into Libra, and as soon as the moon goes into Libra, all the vibes change right away. There's a nice sextile to the sun Wednesday night. We got plans. We're going to get stuff done. But here's that nasty Uranus-Pluto square. And it's on Thursday still. And, the battery went dead, and I can't control things, and I suddenly feel alone and a little panicky. And, there you are Thursday morning. Hope it's not sirens in my neighborhood. Kind of get the jangled nerves all the way through Thursday. And then late Thursday night, early Friday morning, really, the 29th. Here's a square to Venus, totally out of the comfort zone. A square to Jupiter. We're trying to do too much. Everybody's trying to do too much. Too much sugar. Don't eat all those sweets. Your blood sugar goes up. Oh yeah, sweets. And then your body reacts and gobbles all the sugar up, and you go down into the low blood sugar. The object is to stay in the center. Not too much sugar and not too little sugar. And, they call it homeostasis. That you're trying to stay along this middle line, see? And, almost anything you do to excess, there's this kickback, isn't there? Or where was I? There it is Thursday night, and you could really overdo the sugar and the sweets, and Venus can make you crave the sweets very much, but the other side of Venus is weakness. Oh, I can barely move, I'm so tired. That's Venus also, the negative side. Venus has two faces, morning star, evening star. So you're probably going to experience some of the more difficult parts Thursday night, Friday morning. Late Friday after dinner, the moon shifts into Scorpio. There we are. Wasn't watching the screen. And as soon as the moon goes into Scorpio here, we Neptune trine comes up. Art, music, clear vision. Gee, it was all foggy. Now I can see clearly. So a lot of that's going on here Friday night. It's a good time for music and inspiration. Little religion and art, Friday night, the 29th. The movies are good. Moon's still in Scorpio on Saturday, the 30th. It's going to start pretty well because the moon goes by the north node and we're all feeling nurtured and, nurturing people and feeling nurtured is a very nice thing. And we're ready for it once the moon hits Saturn. Yep, it's Saturday night. It's actually Saturday in the middle of the day, in the afternoon, the moon goes by Saturn. Now you're either going to get scared and feel like you don't have enough, or you're going to get organized. And I think this is a good time to be organized because Saturn's sextiling Venus and Mars. And Jupiter is there helping too. I didn't draw it in, did I? Look at that. Huh. There's a nice trine from Jupiter to Saturn. And I just totally didn't see it. It's supposed to be the Republicans and Democrats all working together. Good judgment, huh? First you contract with Saturn, then the trine to Jupiter, and you expand, and you find the middle ground. And so a lot of this balance could be achieved as the moon goes by. Must be negotiations behind the doors here on Saturday the 30th. But I'm very optimistic, and you'll feel that way Sunday morning. Sunday morning here on the 11th, Starts with that nice Jupiter hit really early, 2-3 o'clock in the morning. There's a trine to Jupiter. Aha, now I see it clear. In the middle of the day, in the afternoon, Mars is here and Mercury's here, and we're talking and moving and fixing things, and the kids are happy, and there's lots of sports here for some reason on Sunday, December 1st, huh? Well, I don't know why, but it's fun for the kids to go run around on. Have fun on Sunday. That's what it's all about. On Monday, the 2nd, along comes that new moon. And that new moon really changes things a lot. You know, folks, we're having a series of new moons at 10 degrees. Yes. You just went through that. You're still going through the 10-degree Scorpio. That's sextile Pluto and made the Pluto powers, in charge. Hooray! And it also made a 150-degree angle to Uranus and said the heck with the environmentalists and the 99% and the unions. And now we're going to have a new moon that trines Uranus and says the heck with the police power and the new nuclear aircraft carrier. We're going to help the 99% and be innovative and new age and support environmental and solar stuff. We're going to have a month of it, and then there's going to be another new moon at 10 degrees right here, and that one, is on Pluto, and says the heck with the environment. Square that. We don't want windmills. We don't want solar. We want nuclear power. Oh yeah. There's a guy writing a book about it now, saying there's no way out. We got to fill in the gap. If we want to solve or help global warming, we're going to need Pluto. We're going to need to burn all that nuclear fuel. We don't care where we put the leftovers, for 20,000 years. We're going to save ourselves. Jeez, he says we can't get enough solar or wind or water power together. We're going to have to use nukes. I wonder what the reviews on his book are going to be. Anyway, what's happening is you get a month when Pluto's in power, and you get a month when Uranus is in power. The scientists come out and say global warming's real. The deniers come out and said no, buy more aircraft carriers. And it goes back and forth between these two. Every month there's a new moon, the vibes change. So that goes back to how I started the show, and said, gee, with the new moon at 10 degrees of Sag ain't hitting the U.S. chart so hot, is it? Come on, more on that. The confusion over the chart of the U.S., government, reminds me of the confusion this lady, Linda Goodman's sun signs, just torpedoed real astrology in the U.S. And here's Nicholas Campion did a similar thing about the chart of the USA. Here's a more modern book. I featured this. This guy says, oh, it's Scorpio rising, but he's smart. He got the astrocartography going a little bit and started looking at what that meant. And more on that in a little bit. Anyway, these guys talk about rectification, and most of them, one guy here says, well, probably half of the astrologers in the U.S. are using Gemini rising, even though nobody of any worth thinks that's real. And here some guys were using 2:17, 2:20 a.m. on July 4th. Of course, it's not July 4th, is it? And here a lot of them are going on about 4:50 p.m. in the Sag chart because of one man who did a painting, and he had it down as Sag rising. So, and it's hard to tell the opposites, from each other. So like this one here is a classic, and here they got 12 Sag rising. Some people studied it, some Rosicrucians, and came back to 9 degrees of Gemini rising. Anyway, these guys all forget that in July in Philadelphia it's really hot, and nobody does business then. They all go off and they come back, and when it's nice and cool, they do a lot of business around midnight, and that's the way Ben was doing it. So I've got July 5th at 2 a.m. in the morning. It's when the last person signed. They got confused. Is it the last person that signed the declaration? Sure it is. It wasn't complete until then. A lot of guys signed it earlier. They came in groups. I've rectified a lot of personal charts. I always use progressions, and the progression of the angles are the important ones. Now here is a US chart. I've adjusted this to what happened here on 9/11. And I expected there was going to be an enemy afoot. And there's the rising sign opposing us. Here's an enemy at 8:16 opposing the USA Uranus, the ruler of the 10th, at 8:59. Furthermore, when you look at progress charts, the progressed moon always tells you where the big worry is. And it's right on time. So when I moved to get this 2:03 a.m. July 5th chart and check the progression of the moon, there it is. It's right on the rising sign. We're worried about ourselves on 9/11. Gee, we have an enemy and we're worried about ourselves. So there is how I got to the 2:03 time. Okay, here's a full moon that happened just before 9/11. And this full moon is at 10 Virgo 28, 10 Pisces 28. And that happens 10.5 degrees. Okay, it puts the moon up in the 10th house, public lunacy. The moon squaring Uranus, the ruler of the 10th house, which is at 9 Gemini. Okay, here it gets really interesting. Here's the ground. Now first of all, here's Neptune on the descendant. Neptune on the descendant is like having fishy people around and a lot of drinking, and that line goes right through San Francisco. Gay folks are Neptune. They make super actors. Yes. And of course it was a free city. It was a lot of booze went around there. So Neptune going through San Francisco is a big thing. Then what I saw next amazed me. Here is Venus on the IC. Venus, sex, where's it going? Right up through the Las Vegas area, yes. And then I looked further and I saw over here, here's a line of Pluto on the midheaven. Now this is where all the slavery went on, and most of the pollutants go down that river and come out in New Orleans. All the slave markets were here. This is Pluto on the midheaven, public slave markets, huh? And let's see, what else? Oh, here's Uranus on the ascendant. Radio and television goes right through New York. So these are important things that exist on the ground because of that 203 chart.